Hey guys, I am good and late. But my apologies. Want to go ahead and get into this lesson. This was supposed to be yesterday's lesson. This was supposed to be Sunday's lesson, but I came home from church, was super duper tired. I ended up spending the majority of the day sound asleep. But that's neither here nor there. I'm praying that you guys are still awake and that you're ready to come in, get revelation, get wisdom, get knowledge, get understanding, get what you need to help you with your journey. I want to pull up the comment that the reason I did this message. And thank you to the young lady who left the comment. But do me a favor, do me a favor, do me a favor, do me a favor. Be sure to like and share. Be sure to like and share. I'm about to pull up this comment. And I don't think I'm going to be on here long tonight. I know I say that sometimes, and I know that has become a running joke, but I don't think I'm going to be on here long tonight because, one, I didn't write down any notes, even though I can flow without the notes. But two, because I got work that I want to complete. I got work that I want to complete. All right, I'm going to go ahead and you go hear sound in a minute. Trying to stop this from sounding. They don't want you to know. There we go. There's a comment that somebody left on my last video, and I want to respond to that comment. I thought it was really interesting. I hope she hasn't deleted it. Wait a second. Do me a favor, as you guys come in, be sure to like and share. We're gonna talk tonight. It was a really good comment, and I was in prayer yesterday. No, yeah, today about okay, here it is. I was in prayer today about what the Lord wanted me to talk about. But when I saw this comment, I was like, this is it. This is it. This is what the Lord is highlighting. Sexual compatibility that needs to be discussed right here, right now. So you know what to do from here on out. You know, and forgive the background, guys. I got some stuff that I'm working on. I got to wash that new comforter sheet, whatever that is. I ordered myself a comforter and forgot to get a sheet set. So I got to get up and go out my house tomorrow and go get a sheet set because it makes no sense to have a new bedding but no new comforter. But that's neither here nor there. Got myself a new mattress. You know, I've had my mattress now for about 6, 7, 8 years. And I was like, it's time for something new. It's time for something new. So I got myself a new mattress. I decided to get some new bedding, the whole nine. But that's that. We're going to talk about this. This is something that somebody left a comment about, and I realized that this is a taboo topic. Not only is it a taboo topic, for the most part, one of the things I've come to realize is that when it comes down to navigating talks or discussions of sex, you know, in the Christian realm, a lot of times we're feeling around in the dark. We don't necessarily know what to do because for a long time there has been a taboo subject in the church. That's why I thank God for my Apostle Brian Meadows, because that's something that, you know, our church, we talk openly about, they preach about it, what have you. And so we have to remove that stigma, whatever it is that we have surrounding sex. A lot of times we don't discuss it, and then we find ourselves again feeling around in the dark. And next thing you know, you find yourself falling into sexual immorality, which could destroy what could have potentially been a really good relationship, which could have been a good kingdom relationship, ends up being nothing more than a meetup of bodies, a meetup of the flesh. And so consequently, God could abandon that relationship. Now, he will never leave you, but he could abandon that relationship, meaning he won't put his stamp of approval on it, because get this, the relationship will not give him glory. Because the relationship will not give him glory. I know it's late. Do me a favor, like and share, guys. Facebook, are y'all in here? Facebook, YouTube, I see you guys on. Do me a favor. Be sure to like, be sure to share. Like I said, I have no notes for tonight. We're going to just go at it, see what the Lord says. Excuse me. But do me a favor. Be sure to like and share. For those of you who are on YouTube, like, share, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button. Facebook, let me know that you're in the room. I always have to fuss at Facebook because I think y'all come in and just start staring. Y'all just come in and be like, huh. And I'll be like, hey, hit that like button so we can get some more people on here so it can go up or what have you. But that's that. I want to read this comment and I want to talk about it because this is something that we have to talk about. And thank you to the young lady who posted the comment because it is a real discussion. She said, I do want to address some of the comments. If you're in a serious relationship and the goal is marriage, there should absolutely be conversations about sexual expectations of one another to provide insight and alignment with each other's life. Sexual compatibility is very real. You need to be able to thoroughly communicate with your partner on needs and expectations if this is going to be your spouse. I know for me, I'm a woman, sex is extremely important for me in a relationship. And if we are married, we should be able to do any and everything together. What always bothered me about marriage is people have no problem having sex before marriage, but then get married and all of a sudden stop. That makes no sense. And I agree. I agree to the most part. Now I'm going to tell you, this is a comment. This is really good. This is really good. This is a comment. There, I don't disagree with what she said, but I think that it can kind of open up, for a little bit more dialogue. So I'm going to kind of just start here. She said, I do want to address some of the comments. If you're in a serious relationship and the goal is marriage, there should absolutely be conversations about sexual expectations of one another to provide insight and alignment with each other's life. Now, I agree, but I don't want to say I disagree. I will say you have to have the conversation because there are marriages that were destroyed because of you can call it sexual incompatibility, but the discussion of compatibility when it comes to the bedroom, y'all gonna let me be wrong tonight. The discussion of compatibility when it comes to the bedroom came as a result of us not doing what God said, right? It's the result of us having bodies behind us. It's the result of us having had sex before. And so now we treat sex like a comparison sport. And so what ends up happening is a lot of times if you had somebody that was really good, right, that you had really good chemistry with, it then becomes hard for you to go get in a relationship and have sex with another person who may not meet the expectation or even come close to it. And this is where we get to the discussion of sexual compatibility. I tell people, had we done this, had we done what God told us to do, had we been virgins, had we did things the right way, then sexual compatibility would 9 times out of 10 not be a discussion because we wouldn't have anything to compare the other person to. She said, if you're in a serious relationship and the goal is marriage, there should absolutely be conversations about sexual expectations of one another. This is where I agree, but here's where I would kind of extend that. Conversations over the phone about sex is never a good idea without there being a third party present. That's if you're trying to do it the right way. Because realistically speaking, you are wrapped in flesh. Your flesh can get aroused, your flesh will get aroused. And a lot of times what happens is it takes one comment to lead the conversation astray. And one thing that, and I think a lot of you can testify to this, once that conversation turns left, it is hard to get it back on the road. Once that conversation, from that point on, once that conversation turns left, it is hard to get it back on the road. I'll give you an example. You get on the phone and you say, well, yeah, I said, yeah, but I do think that we should discuss, sex or what have you. Um, And I think that should be a thing for me. Sex is important in marriage or what have you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, I agree. And he says, let's say for example, I'm the type of man. I'm a little bit, I like to, I like all the different positions. I want to do everything. I like to explore. I'm the type person that I want to go out. I want to go to the sex store. I want to go do this and this and this and this and this. In that, let's say for example, you were talking to this guy and you responded, I can get down with that. A lot of times, what ends up happening is he'll say, you can get down with that, huh? Yeah. Imagination enters the chat. You can get down with that. Yeah. So tell me, like, what you mean you can get down with that? Tell tell me if I'm lying. I'm asking a real question. Tell me if I'm lying. A lot of times, now you have to remain sober because right now he's outside of sobriety. Right now he's in his imaginations. He has not cast it down. He has not cast down that imagination. Instead, he has went outside of there and he has now went into the realm of lust. Right? He's already over there in the realm of lust. He's already got. He's already a little bit aroused over there on the other end. And a lot of times, what you have to do is try to navigate the conversation back on road. But I'm going to tell you something that I've learned about men. and I won't say this is all men because I haven't talked to all guys. Brother, brother, thank you. God bless you. It is hard once a man's mind goes off road to get it back on road. It is hard because from that point on, from my experience, I've had to cut guys off. Once that conversation turned left, once that conversation made a left turn or what have you, because I have to keep saying, hey, stop doing that. Hey, stop throwing sex up in there. Stop, trying to slip a sexual innuendo up in there. Stop trying to do that or what have you. Because the conversation then, it becomes hard for him to focus his mind. And so in this situation, I agree with you. The conversation needs to be had. But this is where I think I would place the additive. The conversation needs to be had in a safe space rather than two people being at home, laying on their bed, talking on the phone with one another, because it can cause lust to enter the equation. It can cause lust to enter the equation. It is hard for people to discuss sex without them getting aroused, especially if you have a person that has not matured in the area of self-control. It is easy for, let me take that back. You're wrapped in flesh. I don't even think the flesh can mature. You mature here, but the flesh don't mature. The flesh gonna keep on telling you, I want it. All right, the flesh gonna keep saying, I want it. But this is a conversation that needs to be had. Sexual expectations. I think that when it comes down to the topic of sexual expectation, then I'll talk about sexual compatibility, and then I want to open up and take about 5 to 10 questions, because I believe that this is a discussion that you guys need to hear about. And the discussion, hear me, for those of you who have questions, is going to have to be about what we're talking about tonight. Sexual compatibility, things as it relates to sex or what have you. Because if we go left or what have you, this will turn into an all night thing. People asking me about dreams and stuff like that, and I'm not doing no dream interpretations tonight. Okay. But if you're in a serious relationship and the goal is marriage, there should absolutely be conversations about sexual expectations of one another. Yes, in a safe space. Now, that could be with a counselor. That could be with somebody. It needs to be with somebody who fears and loves the Lord and has the conviction of the Holy Spirit. It needs to be with somebody who will hold you to accountable. It needs to be, I would say, in a safe little counseling session or something like that, where you can talk about expectations. And I think the only time really expectations becomes a big issue is if one of y'all is a freak. If one of you, for example, if the guy said he's into some really strange stuff, or if he says that he has an incredibly high sex drive. And when I say high sex drive, I'm not talking about somebody want to have sex with you every day. It's not a high sex drive. That's a standard sex drive, especially in your 20s and 30s. That is a standard sex drive. That's not a high sex drive. I think that has to be discussed when it comes down to that. I'm going to say this. If you happen to be, right, the flesh going to be fleshing. If you happen to be someone who hates sex, that should be discussed. A lot of women do that. A lot of women get married and they know they don't like sex. They know they got sexual trauma. They know they got spirit spouses. They know they got issues. There are a lot of women out there that will have sex outside of marriage and be sleeping with that man up and down, right? And then turn around and get married, and the next thing you know, they want to go at it like once every 2 weeks or once a month. That is something that you don't do, because that has to be something that is communicated. You have to sit back and say, hey, listen, while I want to be married, I'm going to be honest with you. This is an issue of mine. I'm going to dare to say this out loud. If that's an issue of yours, I would admonish you not to get married until you get that issue rectified. Of course, obviously, you don't have sex outside of marriage to know if it's rectified, but you need to get some counseling. You need to get some therapy surrounding that. Because if you happen to be somebody, and I know I'm going to get backlash on this, if you happen to be somebody who absolutely loathes sex to the point where you don't want to go at it unless it's like once a month or once every 2 to 3 weeks or what have you. And even then you dread it. 9 times out of 10, you got sexual trauma. 9 times out of 10, you got a lot of sexual trauma, or it could be a biological issue where the shape of your body. What else is there? Maybe you don't have too much of attraction to the man you're with. I'll answer that shortly, sister. Make sure you copy and paste it so by the time I come out of here, you won't have to retype it again because the chat 9 times out of 10 is going to keep traveling or what have you. But if you happen to be somebody, and I need y'all to hear me, if you happen to be somebody who hates sex, please go get that rectified. Don't marry somebody and then try to subject them to your small sexual appetite. I've seen women do this. I've done quite a bit of counseling in this. I've seen women do this, whereas they'll get married to a guy and then they'll just basically constrict this guy, right? They'll sit there and constrict him and then they'll sit back and say he has a high sex drive. And I said, what do you mean by high sex drive? He would want to have sex every day. I'm like, well, that's pretty much a standard sex drive. The average couple in their 20s and 30s is going to probably have sex every day or every other day. As you get older, that could diminish. That depends, right? That depends on your health. That depends on you, because every person is different. So this is something that you want to do. This is something that you want to communicate with the other person. If you absolutely hate sex, if you happen to know that in your last relationship you couldn't stand for that man to touch you, in your last relationship you freaked out when that man touched you, in your last relationship it was just too painful, this is something that you want to go get checked out psychologically, and you want to get checked out physically. You want to get checked out psychologically and you want to get checked out physically, because you don't want to subject another person to that, because then you're opening the door for them to cheat. And I'm waiting on somebody to challenge that. I'm waiting on somebody to come and say, well, if he really loved me, he wouldn't cheat. The Bible talks about that in what's that, First Corinthians talks about fasting. Whenever you fast, whenever you're married, you have to get permission from your spouse so that you two are not tempted by the enemy. Because during fasting, biblical fasting, you refrain from sex. So whenever you're married, the Bible tells us that your body is not your own. My body won't belong to me. My husband's body won't belong to him. I got the right, the legal right, the license to that. I will have the license to that body, right? And so because of that, he doesn't have the right to sit back and say, um, this is my body. Y'all be getting me. Oh, ladies, I love y'all. Getting me married and talking about my body, my choice. You're not reading your Bible. You're not reading your Bible. And the enemy will send another woman to come and do what you refuse to do. And I know somebody gonna get upset with that. I know somebody who got cheated on never truly got healed. We get upset with that type of statement, because in your mind you feel like, well, I feel like if he truly loved me, if it's 3 or 4 months later, he should be abstinent. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months later, he should be abstinent. Let me pull up the scripture for you. Let me pull up the scripture. I'm actually looking forward to getting to the questions. Give me a second. The pitter patter of puppy feet. Oh, weirdo. Hey, handsome. 1 Corinthians 7. 1 Corinthians 7. Mm-hmm. Would that be? We're going to start at 1. Now concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto his wife, and to the wife do benevolence. Do benevolence. I know how to say that word. Do benevolence. And likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife have no power of her body, but the husband. And likewise also the husband have not power of his body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. Sorry. This is your Bible. And if you follow these demonic movements that are trending, you're gonna mess up your marriage. You're gonna destroy your marriage, because you're gonna go into the marriage talking about my body. You're gonna go into the marriage talking about my body, my choice. And you haven't read the 1 Corinthians 7. So the point that I'm making is this: whenever you get married or before you get married, that is a discussion that you should have. I completely agree with her, but I also wanted to make sure that I say it should be something that's had in a safe space so that the conversation does not make a left turn. Because once the conversation goes off road, it is hard to get the person back on road. It is difficult to get the person back on road, or in many cases, it can be difficult for you to get the relationship back on the road. You may end up saying something that's out of terms. I think that we all deal with curiosity, and when it comes down to curiosity, a lot of times the man, they said, that I don't know why I'm tongue twisted tonight. The man may say something to you that is inappropriate, and you may entertain him with a comment, and the next thing you know, he starts building on that, and you may sit up there and in your head you're saying stop, but then you may build on that with a comment. You pretty much almost killed your relationship at that point. You pretty much almost, because from that point on it becomes very difficult to keep the relationship on the road of holiness, keep the relationship on the road of purity from that point on, because imagination starts getting involved or what have you. Let me get back to this comment. Let me get back to this comment. All right. Sexual compatibility is very real. You need to be able to thoroughly communicate with your partner on needs and expectations. Again, this is something that you need to do in a safe space. I wanted to make sure I address this because this is a good comment. This is a good comment that she left, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure that nobody gets led astray. To make sure not everybody has the same measure of maturity or the same measure of self-control. Some people are immature when it comes to self-control. Some people are more mature. And when it comes down to self-control, like I said, you can't really mature the body. You have to mature the mind. When it comes down to self-control, I've learned this, and I've taught this on this channel 1,000 times. It's not about me being alone with a man and then rehearsing in my head, nothing's going to happen. I'm wrapped in flesh. He's wrapped in flesh. Easily something could happen, right? Easily in that moment, the flesh starts to, reason with you. Sexual or just being mature means let us put the proper, let's establish some type of protocol to ensure that we don't fall. Let's ensure some type of protocol to ensure that we don't fall. The protocol I had to establish is one, you can't come to my house. You're not coming in my house. I'm not coming to your house. I'm not going to be alone with you in no place where something can go down. That's the protocol I had to establish. Another thing is a promise I made to God. I made God a promise I wouldn't kiss outside of marriage. Now, your conviction may be different or what have you, whatever you tell God, but I would admonish you to make some covenants with God or make some agreements with God. I told God I wouldn't kiss outside of marriage. I said he can kiss me at the altar. I said when the pastor said you may now kiss the bride, that's when he can kiss me. Other than that, outside of that, he can't kiss me. You say, Sister Tiffany, why? Because at the end of the day, you've heard me say this before, why heat up the oven if you can't put nothing in it? Why would I heat up the oven if we can't do nothing? If I can't put nothing in it, it's like me going into the kitchen. I got an air fryer, cutting that thing on and just leaving it on. I actually did that today. I accidentally was that today or yesterday. I was cleaning up, so it was yesterday. I was doing some deep cleaning. I hit it with this powder. What have you cut it on? Right. And I looked over at it and I saw that it was red. I realized it was on. But why would I sit back and get myself all hot and bothered or get him all aroused and we literally can't do anything about it? Because again, lust will enter the chat. And that's the thing that you want to keep out of your relationships. I have seen good kingdom godly relationships be destroyed because the parties involved lack self-control. I've seen good kingdom, what would have been beautiful relationship. I've seen God sit back and God can take his hand off of your relationship. Let me say it that way. I don't want to say I've seen him take his hands off a relationship, but I've seen relationships destroyed. I've seen relationships destroyed because people went about it the wrong way. They allowed lust to enter into the relationship. And a lot of times it comes in through kissing. A lot of times it comes in through kissing. It starts off with a peck on the lips, and then the peck on the lips starts to graduate to, long kiss. And next thing you know, you introduce your tongue. And next thing you know, you're both in your feelings. You're both in your flesh. And like I told you, before long, you find yourself on the couch. You're on a slow grind, right? You're over there dry humping. But it's a progressional. right? You're gonna keep on going down, and you're gonna keep on moving until you um I was gonna say until you go outside the will of God, but the minute you entered into lust, you were already outside the will of God, because the Bible says if a man looks upon a woman and lusts after her in his heart, he's already committed the sin of adultery. And she said, I know for me, I'm a woman, sex is extremely important for me in a relationship. And if we are married, we should be able to do any and everything together. Again, that comes from comparison. That comes from a history. That comes from I was with this person and I was with this person. You know, I can't say how many partners, but typically it comes from history. Um, I've been married twice. And in both of those times when I was married, one of the lessons that I learned, and I wasn't a virgin when I got with those guys, nowhere near it. One of the things I've learned over the course of time, and some of y'all can challenge this thought, but I don't even know if sexual compatibility exists. I think that when it comes down to it, sex is a mental sport, and I think that the only time it can become incompatibility is if you're dealing with somebody who is unteachable. If you're dealing with somebody who, because I think the only time you're sexually incompatible, I think the only time I would say that it exists is if you hate sex and he loves it, or you love sex and he hates it, or you want standard, good, just Mormon sex, you just want to do everything, what have you, and he wants to be all up on the ceiling fan. But either way, it has everything to do with compatibility, right? It has everything, not compatibility, it has everything to do with being teachable. I remember I started off, and I told you guys this before, when I was married the first time. I told this story. We were having a gathering at our house, and my sister-in-laws, they were in the kitchen with me. The men went and started playing a video game in another room. And one of the brother-in-laws, he gets up and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, mama," he was like, "Don't shut down the house. Don't shut down on me tonight." He's talking to his wife. He was like, "Don't shut down." And she was like, "Get out of here. You drunk or what have you." After he left out the kitchen, the guys came and got her because he was drunk and he was emotional. He was like, "Don't shut me down tonight, mom. I need you tonight." It was really funny. And I remember while we were, when after they left out the kitchen, the women started talking about sex, right? So she was frustrated. She was mad. She felt embarrassed. So she's just like, "He always do something. Nobody want to do nothing with him. This, that." And then another girl, she starts talking. And she starts saying, like, "Yeah, he's this other one. He's the same way. Don't nobody want to be humping like rabbits every single day." And they're just talking. And I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there like, and they looked at me and they're like, "What about you, Tiff? What's that look on your face?" And I was like, "Y'all don't like having sex?" And they were like, "No, not every day. No, not every day." And I was like, "Okay." And they said, "You do?" I said, "Yeah, I'm probably the initiator. I'm the instigator. I talk noise. If he tell me no, I'll pull out the Bible in a minute and be like, First Corinthians said your body don't belong to you. Or what have you. But I remember having conversations with them and other women and trying to help them to understand when it came down to sex, the problem with them. And I've said this with you guys before. The problem that you typically have is that you're not communicating. So if you can sit here and say that you've had a bad sexual encounter with a person, in many cases, it's a lack of communication. Now, you should have been married to that person, but it's a lack of communication. The problem is, and y'all, it's late at night, so I can talk like this. The problem is with ladies, with women, more than 50, 60, maybe even 75% of you are too afraid to use your voice. You're too afraid to communicate. "Hey, I don't like that. Hey, what are you doing? That hurts." Or what have you. And the reason for that is because you're in comparison mode. Please let me know if I'm wrong. You're in comparison mode. You're still under that thought. You have to be a freak in the sheets and a lady in the streets. You're still under that thought. So you don't want to be less than the last woman. Tell me if I'm wrong. You're afraid that you're not going to be as good as the other women that he's been with. And you need to hear me when I say this. That type of thinking ruins your encounter with your husband. You need to have an organic, generic, authentic encounter with him and not his partners. And he needs to have encounters with you and not your partners. I only had one person to answer me. that comes from comparison. It comes from you comparing who he slept with, and it also comes from you comparing yourself to the women that, I mean, you comparing who you slept with when you're afraid of a man not being compatible, or you being afraid of who he slept with. You being afraid that he can go out there and he can find somebody better than you in the bedroom. Realistically speaking, experience all the different positions does not equal better sex. A woman with experience, I don't care if she does calisthenics, I don't care if she what is that? What is that book? Kama Sutra? I don't care. None of that equals better sex. You want to know what equals better sex? Here, chemistry. Sex has everything to do with how you feel about each other. If you genuinely love each other and there is no trauma that will keep you from, that will make you want to not have sex with your husband, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to be compatible. Sex is a language. It's not something, it's the fact that we were freaks before we got married that messes us up. It's not something it's not an up and down motion. It's not that stuff you did in the world. When you get married, it's not all that. When you get married, it becomes an art. It's a science. You literally get to know each other's bodies. So a lot of the stuff you did in the street, you're not going to do in your house. I need the married folks to back me up. A lot of stuff that y'all did in this, you're not going to do in your house, because a lot of the things that you're doing in the bedroom, they center themselves around comparison. They center themselves, but the best sex that you have is going to be organic. The best sex that you have is going to be him loving on you, you loving on him, period, point blank. That's it. That's all. It's going to be y'all loving on each other enough to care about how the other person feels. Be sure to copy your questions, because I'm gonna get to them shortly. It's going to have everything to do with you caring about how the other person feels. It's going to have everything. The best sex that you have when you're married. Now, I'm not promoting sex outside of marriage. The best sex that you have when you're married typically it goes here. When you go into that bedroom, and there's no issues in your mind like unpaid bills. There's no issues in your mind like a fight that wasn't resolved. And there's no issues in your mind like being disrespected. The best sex that you'll ever have with your partner has everything to do with you having a positive mindset. And you're going in the bedroom not thinking about yourself. You're going in there thinking, I want to make him happy. And he comes in with the same mindset. I want to make her happy. When you have that, you will be sexually compatible. So one of the things that I would admonish you guys to do, and I don't want to sound harsh, you need to wait until you're married to have sex. If you are currently having sex, you need to stop. And you need to get therapy behind it. You need to get all of that freaking the sheets and the lady in the street stuff out of your mind, because you're going into the realm of comparison. And if you go into the realm of comparison, there is a woman far more, that's a different system. There's a woman far more experienced than you. There's a woman far more, whatever, loose, energetic, athletic than you are. And if you go into the realm of comparison, she may be better in the realm of comparison, but nothing compares to love. I'm being honest. And I'm telling you, any person that's hearing this is saying, yeah, I don't agree with all that. It's because you haven't experienced love. You don't know what it's like to go into a space. You know what it's like to be a freak. You know what it's like to be used. You know what it's like to pound or to be pounded. That's it. You know what it's like to sit there and try to reach a climax with another person. You don't know what it's like to sit there and genuinely love a person, to sit there and genuinely take your time and understand that I got all night with this person. There is no rush. I ain't got to hurry up and do this. I can enjoy myself with this person. You don't know what that's like. And because you don't know what that's like, That sounds boring to you because you're still a part of the old system. That's the Old Testament system. That's a system outside. That's a system of works. And when I say Old Testament, I'm not talking about Bible. I'm talking about that's something that came from the world. That's the system of works where you're sitting up there and you're thinking that I got to go to the sex store. I got to get something to slap him around. I gotta burn him with a cigarette. I gotta pull her hair. That comes from that's a different system. The system of love is completely different. The system of love is completely different, and it's foreign. It's foreign to the average Christian, right? It's foreign. The reason that it's foreign to most of us is because you've never been a part of it, because you either never been married or you spent your life allowing yourself to be somebody's blow up doll. I'm not just talking to the ladies, I'm talking to you guys as well. You spent your life allowing yourself to be a tool. You don't know what it's like to be in a space with a person that you love and that person loves you. You don't know what that's like. And so you rely on old chemistry. When I say old chemistry, I'm talking about you rely on the person who molested you and what you learn from that and all the people thereafter. You rely on all of that to help you to establish what you want in a woman. Consequently, you like women that are freaks. You like women that are soul tied to like 6, 7, 8, 9, like 15, 30, 75 guys. You like women that don't have any self control. You like women that's been out there because you're still operating from that old system. You're still operating from, I want to make it make sense. I can see the vision. And I'm not talking about a sexual vision, but I don't want to use the room. I don't want to use the word rhythm. So we will stick with the word compatibility. Sex is a language. It truly is a language. One of the ways, now me having been married, I can tell you it's a language. Whenever you establish a language with your spouse, you'll know if they cheated. You'll know if they're cheated. The way you know if they're cheated, when my ex, he told me once I found out everything about him, right in the end, and he the cheating was out there on the table. He couldn't hide it anymore because he had a kid on me. But we were calling ourselves trying to heal from that, right? We calling ourselves trying to heal from that. And he came into the room one day and he said, I got a question. I hope it doesn't make you upset. He said, but this thing has been grinding me. He said, how did you know when I was cheating on you? He said, how did you know? He said, because I can exchange numbers with a woman one day. And he said, by the time I get home, you already knew. And of course, when it comes down, thank you, sis. Thank you, Sister Christy. Thank you. God bless you. But of course, when it comes down, God give you insight, prophetic insight. If you happen to be married to a prophet or prophetic person, don't bother trying to cheat because God will reveal it to them if they're surrendered to Him. Right? God can and oftentimes will reveal it to him. But one thing I don't know if I communicated with him, his language changed. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this boldly. When you get married and there's a semblance of love between the two of you, when you get married, you will develop a language and there's going to be a whole lot of chemistry. There's a whole lot of chemistry. When another person comes in, they're designed to throw off your rhythm. That's what the enemy sends them in. So when you develop a language, it's like decibels, or when you develop a language, there's like a pattern. I'll say that. It's a pattern. So let's say music pattern, plop, 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 just a pattern. When another woman comes into the picture, or another man comes into the picture, their pattern may be boing, 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 or what have you. I hope I'm making sense. When a person starts cheating, they're going to start picking up this other person's pattern. So all of a sudden, when they come into the bedroom with you, you can feel it's not the same. It's not the same. The chemistry is now, it's starting to go out the window. You're starting to trying to figure out what the heck is this dude doing? Like all of a sudden, he went from being Mr. Lover Boy to being, just this loving, caressing, and I want to enjoy you all night long, to all of a sudden he acting like a rabies chihuahua. All of a sudden he pop, 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 pop. And you're like, the heck is all that? Where'd you get all that from? That's how you know when a person has been cheating. Compatibility. Compatibility comes from comparability or comparison. It comes from you haven't been out there and your partner haven't been out there, and the two of you guys coming together and wondering if you could outshine the last person or outshine the person that was the best one. And again, that destroys marriages. That destroys marriages. So what has to happen is that soul tie has to break. What has to happen is that you have to go through the healing process and you have to allow God to destroy that rhythm. I pray I'm making sense, but you have to allow God to destroy that rhythm. This is what it's like to become like a born again virgin, that you have to allow God to destroy that rhythm. In other words, you have to allow God to purify your mind to the point where you know without a shadow of doubt. And I'm trying to say this to every woman, every man. If you're going to do this the kingdom way, you don't let God, you're going to enjoy your spouse. Period, point blank. Now, do I think you should have a discussion about sex? Yes, when you have wise counsel there, because it needs to be discussed if you hate sex. It needs to be discussed if you happen to be one of those people that want to have sex like once every month or what have you. It needs to be sex to the ladies and to the brothers in Christ. If you into some freaky stuff, if you sit back and you talking about you like chains, whips, and spikes, or what have you, yeah, you need to communicate that. You give a person a clear and sober choice to make, to sit back and say, yeah, I ain't into all that stuff, and I really don't want to go through all that. I don't want to be choked out. I don't want to go through all that because I genuinely feel like that's me having to compare myself or compete with some porn that you watched, and that's me having to compete with some freaks that you've been with, maybe even some people that you paid for. That's me having to compete with them, and I ain't doing all that. So, yes, have the conversation, but do it in a wise way. Do it when you have somebody, typically a counselor, on the phone, marriage counseling, your pastor. You have counseling at your church where you're in a room with somebody, whereas you can talk about those things from a sober place. And at the same time, Mr. Swag, thank you. God bless you. God bless you. At the same time, take the time out. Like I said, you have the thing that I think you have to communicate is if you know that you don't like sex, or if you know that you're a straight up freak, if you know that 9 times out of 10 you're gonna get married and you're gonna turn into an old wife. If you're gonna turn into just I don't want to do nothing. 2 weeks later, all right, I gonna give in. Yes, that needs to be communicated. That should be communicated. That should be communicated. Hey, you go to your pastor, whoever's doing your counseling, and say, hey, listen, I really don't like sex like that. I really like this guy. I don't know what his sex drive is like, but I really don't like sex like that, or what have you. And I want us to be able to communicate that. I want us to sit down and talk about that, or what have you. And then y'all can talk about that and see if you are compatible in that retrospect. Other than that, if you do it the kingdom way, I am more than confident that you will be compatible. If you do it the kingdom way, I'm more than confident because God won't lead you astray. If you do it the kingdom way. Now, when you do it the kingdom way, it does not mean that y'all going to have immediate chemistry. Chemistry, chemistry comes from, there are two things. You still got chemistry with the people that you slept with before, and the man that you're with or the woman that you're with bear the same spirit. They were just as much as a freak as you were. Then you may end up with that perverted chemistry. Chemistry could also be two of you coming together and what was I gonna say? Like minds. Like minds. So whenever you get married, the thing, like I said, when you go into the bedroom, it's not gonna be an automatic. He knows what he's doing. Most of the time, when a man comes in the bedroom, he already has his rhythm picked out. Sorry, he's not a virgin. Majority of cases, he already got his thing picked out. It's some stuff that he established back there outside of what have you. It's up, and ladies, I need you to hear me. It's up to you. And brothers, you communicate as well, but ladies, it's up to you to communicate what you don't like. I've seen this way too many times where a woman will sit there and hate having sex with her husband to the point where she'll start to resist him. She'll start to tell him no simply because she doesn't like, the time she has sex with him. She allowed him, for example, she happens to be a woman that likes, to feel like intimacy. She likes slow. She likes to be caressed. She likes to feel love. She likes to feel that. But she got a dude that been out there, right? He'd been out there. He happens to be a guy that was probably watching a bunch of porn and all this other stuff, and he's into, he want to beat her head up against the wall, right? He want to do a lot of crazy stuff to her, or it may not even be that drastic. It could be just he happens to be, and y'all forgive me, I got to get real with you. He could be a pounder. I'm sorry, and she don't like all that pounding. That's something he picked up over the course of time. He liked that with his last relationship. He liked that with some girl in his past. And so I tell women this all the time. You can end up having amazing sex life with your husband if you communicate. Most of the time, more than 50, 60, maybe even 75% of women don't communicate. You won't communicate. You won't open your mouth and say, what the heck is you doing? I told you, make a joke out of it. Let it be funny. I probably stop and be like, Speedy Gonzalez, you still got, I think you got 9 lives left. You can slow down. You got 9 lives left. You ain't got to rush. I know you, I know you were a little desperate. I know, we had to wait all this time to get married, but hey, I'm here. We're going to be with each other for the rest of our lives, okay? You ain't got to get it all out. I'm saying, for me, I learned to be funny. Consequently, when I was married, we never had a bad sex life. Never, ever, ever. We had incredible chemistry. Both times I was married, we had incredible chemistry because I knew how to communicate. And I've told you guys this before. Communication is key. A man's body responds to your body responds to your mind. I've told you that before. A man's body is going to respond to your body. So if he's doing something that you don't like, how should I say this? What is a PG way of saying this? You're going to turn into a desert. If he's doing something you don't like, you're going to probably turn into a desert, which is going to affect this. And then that's going to make him want to do all crazy stuff all the more. Because now, I don't know if I'm going to keep this up. I know I'm going to keep it up. Now, you screaming like crazy because you in pain. And that's motivating him because now he think he's doing something. Now he get up off of you, you're traumatized. Bedroom trauma is a real thing with women. And I know that because I've counseled women. Bedroom trauma. You don't want him back on you because he thought he had a good time. He thought you had a good time because you were screaming and you didn't communicate. And so now he walks away talking about something. Yeah. Well, that thing out. You laying there thinking to yourself, no, you didn't. I need an ambulance. The heck? That wasn't good at all. Pain don't equate to pleasure because you didn't communicate. So I'm trying to remove the fear of abstinence. I don't fear when I get married whether or not I'll be compatible with my husband. The only time I would be concerned with that is, I would pray that he would communicate with me if he happens to be into some deep, dark stuff. I would pray that he would communicate with me if he says, Tiffany, it's something about wrapping your hand around a woman's neck and watching the life come out of her, and then you release the grip right before she gives up the ghost. Yeah, I think we need to break up. I think we need to break up because I'm not dying for that. I'm sorry. You need deliverance. You need deliverance, okay? I'm not dying for that. That's the time. Those are the things that you communicate. If he sits back and say, I'm not gonna lie, okay. How many of you are abstinent? How many of you have been abstinent more than 5 months? By show of hands. Because I want to do an experiment. I want to see something. How many of you have been abstinent about at least 5 months? Hurry up so I don't lose my train of thought. How many of you have been abstinent? Five years. Come on. Praise God. They got my sisters up in here. I'm talking about we up in here. We in this place. We up in here. 2 years, 3 years. I tell men all the time, they be like, "Ain't no good women out here." I say, yes, they are. There's some women out there that are, doing it kingdom way, right? For those of you who've been abstinent for some time, I got a question for you, and I'm just waiting for the people to finish putting in. I got a question for you, and this however you define it, I think we have a general understanding. I need y'all to listen real quick. I gotta ask this: would you rather a man take his time and make love to you, or would you rather him put you in a lot of different positions and y'all pound it away? You can put one if you want him to make love to you. Two if you want to be pounded. Don't put one and two. Please don't. Because some of y'all still trying to play. You still trying to. What if a man looking at me? Which one would you prefer? 14 years. Wow. One, one, one. I thought so. One. So far, 100% of the women said one. Most women, most of us, women are not into all that pounding, right? You know you're not into all that. You're not into somebody wanting to put your leg over your head and flip you over and grab your hair. You're not into all of that. That freak down the street is into that. A wife is not into that. When it comes down, and the reason I wanted to do this experiment, yeah, and it's very rare. Now, for those of you who said two, I seen a couple of two people said two, and I want you to be honest. When was the last time you had sex? Honestly, for those of you who said two, anybody that says two, when was the last time you had sex? How long has it been? And there's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it because it's just a matter of preference, right? Sorry to hear that, Sister La Jolla. When was the last time? I want to show you something. I got a theory. I want to see if my theory is correct. Definitely can come from trauma. Two is you like to be pounded. You want to be flipped over. So you want to go at it hard. You want to go. Okay, 2 years, 8 years. Shonda, I don't think you said that you wanted the number two special. The question was, would you rather for a man to take his time with you and to make love to you or what have you, take his time, or would you want to be pounded? A man flipping you over, doing all that fast, like the pound, you know what I'm talking about, pound town. The majority of women on here, 98, 99% of women said number one. 98, 99% of women said number one. If you don't communicate that, when you get married, if you don't communicate that, and that's his last season, that's where he's taking you. He's taking you to Pound Town. And he's not going to understand that what he's doing is not pleasing to you. And he's going to get excited because you're screaming. And he's going to think that he's doing something. And the whole time you're thinking, I want this to be over with. Right. Honestly, now I'll tell you, and this may be me. I don't know if this is every woman. I talked to Assistant Christ man about this one day, and I said I don't want a man that's coming fresh out of a bunch of experience because I really don't. It's been 10 years. I don't want to have to be an expert. Does that make sense? I could be transparent. I don't want to have to be an expert. I mean, back in the day, but I don't want to have to because I don't feel like I'm getting the chance to just have my encounter with him. I feel like I'm comparing myself to the last girl. I feel like I'm comparing myself to the last girl, which takes the intimacy out of it. It takes the joy, it takes the specialness out of it. It makes you, for me personally, it just feels cheap. No, Pound Town doesn't feel like love. It just feels like you're a blow up doll trying to help somebody to reach a happy ending. Now, when you get married, of course, you're gonna have your slow dance and you're gonna have your fast dance. You're gonna have all of that when you're married. But most women, if you did those statistics, the majority of women, especially women that have been abstinent, do not want somebody to come in with a bunch of experience and flip them all over the place. They don't want all that experience. They don't want to be flipped and slapped. They don't want their cheeks clapped. They don't want all that. They just want to enjoy their husband. Women, on the other hand, that's been out there, that have been having a lot of sex, that have come and gotten used to Pound Town, want Pound Town. And like I said, it's no shade to them at all, because that's just a matter of preference. But I'm saying this to say, that's something you communicate. You want to keep it abstinent, right? You want to make sure that God blesses your union. You want to make sure you dedicate your union to God so that He can get the glory. But you also want to make sure that whenever you do communicate about sex, that there's a third party that's available, right? You want to make sure there's a third party available that you can communicate with. I'm gonna get into the question shortly, guys. But you want to make sure, just after the question, I'm sorry. This is gonna be a real night. This is gonna be real. This is gonna be a real night. Well, listen, I saw the comment. I was like, I gotta talk about this. I gotta talk about this, or what have you. But it was a really good comment. I love the advice that she gave. I agree. It is something that you want, because there are marriages that are destroyed because, in many cases, from what I've seen, it's usually a man that comes in who has a standard sex drive, or he can have a high sex drive, and he marries a woman who absolutely hates sex. And if you hate sex, if it gets to the point where you're married, you absolutely loathe it, there's a possibility that there's trauma. You may need some a, a psych evaluation. Um, it could be biological. It could be something wrong with you, like fibroids or something like that. It could cause it to become painful. You might not like your husband because you're not communicating with him. But then it also can be a demon. Spirit husbands will make you hate sex with your spouse. Right? Premarital counseling, it needs to be brought up. It should be brought up. A discussion of sex. And you have to have an agreement. Hey, this discussion stays in this space. I don't want to go home and I call you up and we on the phone and you say, I was thinking about what you said to the counselor, when you were talking about how you don't want to go to Pound Town. And so, like, define Pound Town. No, because now you want to play in your imagination and we're not going there. We're not going there. So, no, we can talk about that in the next session. We can talk about that in the next session, because we got to keep this thing kingdom. We got to keep this thing kingdom. But definitely, I would say bring it up in premarital counseling. Let me see if there was anything else I want to address before I get into the questions. And sex is important. I know she said, I know for me, I'm a woman. Sex is extremely important for me in a relationship. Um, I'll say this: I was actually addicted to it. So you can kind of guess that it was incredibly important to me. Like I said, I used to use the Bible on my. I mean, I was married to. If he dared to look at me and had the audacity to say no, it would start a fight. I'd be like, bro, nay, you don't say no, or what have you. So it was important. It was important to me, but it was important for the wrong reasons. It wasn't necessarily coming from a healthy place. So we want to make sure that you know sex, while is good and you should enjoy it, and if you want to have it every day, if you want to have it every hour, that your partner is up for the challenge or what have you. So I agree with that part. But like I said, it's something that you want to make sure that you are communicating with the other party. But it's also something that you don't want to hinge your marriage on it. If you hinge your marriage on it, your marriage may end. So as men get older, they can start dealing with they can become impotent, right? Or they can become relatively impotent. This is why we have blue pills or what have you. As women get older, I don't know if this is a true thing or not, but they say when women get older, their sex drive actually escalates while men sex drive tends to diminish or what have you. But that's something you don't want to hinge your marriage on. Meaning, you don't want to make it so important that if he can't have sex anymore, that you end up leaving him. My grandmother actually did that, or that was her excuse for leaving my granddaddy for his friend. Was she said that he couldn't do anything anymore. My granddaddy was 19 years older than my grandmother. He was 19 years older than my grandmother. And that has to be a slap in the face to be left behind at a time where my granddad was in the early stages of Alzheimer's. But that's got to be a slap in the face to be left behind because your body doesn't function anymore. Because it tells you that to that person, you were nothing but a body the whole time. And nobody wants to be married and know that they're nothing but a body, not know that they're nothing but a means to an end, or what have you. And the last part, she said, what always bothered me about marriage is people have no problem having sex before marriage. I agree. But then get married and all of a sudden stop. This is why you don't have sex outside of marriage. You don't have sex outside of marriage, number one. And then again, too, when you do get married, ladies, brothers, I'll say this to you, is you have to communicate. But ladies, the primary communication, you have to teach him, you know, and not from your past relationships. That, like I said, you need to be purified from all that. Both of y'all need to be purified from all of that. But you have to tell him, you have to communicate if he's doing something that you don't like. You have to tell him you're about to close up the windows of heaven. You have to tell him, hey, I don't know where you got that from. Can you stop that? And like I said, turn it into a joke. Don't emasculate him. Don't make him feel like less than a man. Don't make him feel like that you're not enjoying him. Turn it into a joke. You just sit back and say, hey, listen, I don't know why you feel the need to throw your whole back into the bedroom. Like, I mean, the way you bouncing is like a seesaw. Your whole back caving in and all that, and your eyes rolling in the back of your head and stuff. It's some exorcist type stuff. Could you want to consider just calming it down? Can we talk about your childhood? Let's have a live therapy session. This talk, because I'm gonna take you through deliverance while we having sex. I'm gonna take you through deliverance. I'm gonna carry something out. You over here like you're manifesting and stuff. And you got me making me feel like I'm in the middle of some type of ritual. I'm gonna get out of the bullshit down here. But I'm saying that to say you want to make sure that you are communicating. I'm saying that if you communicate, the probability of you guys being sexually incompatible is going to be very slim. And you will have a very active sex life, very healthy sex life with your husband. And husbands, you will have a very healthy sex life with your wife if you take the time out to communicate with one another and also communicate changes in your health and changes in your body or what have you. If your husband's body starts to go down, then you have to find other ways to be intimate. And this is something that you want to do before y'all, in the midst of sex. You want to have other ways that you guys can be intimate because sex cannot be the end all be all when it comes down to marriage. If it is, then you might as well just buy yourself a blow up doll and call it a day. You might as well buy yourself a blow up doll. When you're married, you have counseling sessions. You can talk about that in the counseling sessions. But when you're married, and when you're married, you can communicate it during sex if you'll know you if the time permits or after the fact. Especially if they start talking noise. And if they start talking noise, talking about some, yeah, I put that on you. It's like, you put it on who? You put it on yourself. You out there acting like you got electrocuted. I ain't acting like I got electrocuted. You did. You ain't like an electric eel got a hold of your big toe and what have you. And you over here just eyes rolling in the back of your head. You flipping all over the place. I'm going to need you to do better. I'm gonna need you to do better. I don't mean I ain't trying to be funny. So you trying to say that wasn't good? I enjoy you, baby. You amazing, okay? I love you. But that was whack. That was whack. I'm sorry. I don't know who taught you that. But whoever did it, you need to backhand them. That was whack. Or what have you. Most of the times when you do things, when y'all have a healthy relationship and y'all are used to joking around with each other, it's no offense there. There's no offense there. You can go ahead and start posting your questions. But then typically there's no offense there because he's coming to know, hey, my baby play with me all the time. And what I appreciate about her is that she's honest. And what he'll do, what a lot of times what happens is he'll curve the behavior, and you can actively stop him while you're in it, right? It doesn't have to be verbal cue, sometimes it can be a physical cue to slow down. For example, you can send physical cues, and I don't want to show that here. If I got a course I started creating some time ago, never published it. It was a sex ed course, but there are physical cues you can give a man to let him know that, hey, you're doing the most. There are physical cues, and typically he'll get it, he'll understand, or what have you. It's an unspoken language because again, sex is a language. But there are physical cues, and if you enjoy him, quite naturally, he's going to enjoy you. I'm gonna put that out there. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna get to your question, sis. If you enjoy him, he's going to enjoy you. He can have 12 freaks out there. He can have a freak. I'm talking about this woman could be super advanced in sex. She could be jumping off a trapeze, doing all that other stuff. She will not compare to you because it ain't about that. It's genuine. She won't compare to you. Now, that doesn't mean he won't cheat. Men don't cheat for better, they cheat for different. Hollywood messed a lot of y'all up. Men don't cheat for better, they cheat for different. That's it. It has nothing to do. If you're with a cheater, he's going to cheat no matter what you do. No matter how great your chemistry is, he's going to cheat. Period. Point blank. No matter who he get with, he's going to cheat on. You will never meet him. You will never see him in a relationship with a woman where that he's not cheating unless he's gone impotent. And even then, he probably gonna still be slapping women on the booty. We seen them old men in a nursing home. That stuff ain't working no more. They're in a wheelchair and they hit the nurses on the booty because that spirit of perversion is so deeply rooted in them. All right. What do you do if you're afraid of sex, but God is preparing you for marriage? A lot of people have told me it's horrible and it hurts. That's where the problem is. You got to take that out your head. I've never been in a relationship until there's a little bit of fear that I won't be good enough in the area for my partner. I want you to come out of agreement with that. I don't necessarily hate it. I just think there's a fear there because I don't want to get hurt, but I also don't want fear to ruin when it's time for me to get married. Stay in alignment with the kingdom, right? Stay in alignment with the will of God, and God will send you a man that loves you. It's a difference between having sexual intercourse with a man who loves you, your husband, having a husband that loves you versus having just a man. So men can marry you for varying reasons, right? A man can be sexually attracted to you, and you're withholding, so he'll marry you. A man can be attracted to the fact that you're a virgin. I'm 10 years out. 10 years is one of these days this month makes 10 years for me. There are men that would be attracted to that part. Oh, I ain't never been with a woman that's got 10 years. Men can be professionally attracted to you. Men can be financially attracted to you. There are different types of attractions that a man can have. So you want to make sure that you are praying so that it's the right type of attraction. And, it's not an attraction for like sex or what have you. If you get the right guy, if you do things the kingdom way, the right guy is not going to come in there and do any type of damage. People who tell you that it hurts and all that other stuff, yes, there is pain there, but it's not unbearable pain. It is more in your head than it is in your body. Once you encounter love, because sex needs to be it needs to be matched with love. Once you encounter love with sex, your husband will take his time with you or what have you. And the beginning parts of it is psychological. It's just more psychological. So you want to be careful with the conversation, the people that get in your ear about that, because they can have you tensing up. They can have you tensing and getting super afraid. But realistically speaking, when it comes down to the right man, he's not gonna do all that stuff. Now, if you marry the wrong man, there's a huge possibility that he go up in there thinking sex. That's it. He's thinking about, oh man, I've been waiting. I couldn't wait to get to this or what have you. And a person like that can be a bit insensitive, but you're still in control in a moment like that. So it's not about satisfying him. I want you to be free. I want everybody on here to be free from the mentality that my husband won't be pleased with me. So, brother, thank you. God bless you. I want you to be free from that mentality that he won't be pleased with me. As long as you got the parts, he's going to be pleased, right? He got the parts, you got the parts, he's going to be pleased. It has nothing to do with experience. When it comes down to experience, there's a difference between a wife and a freak, right? When it comes down to experience, a man likes his freak to have experience. A man likes his concubine to have experience. He likes his whore to have experience. He likes those type of women. When it comes down to his wife, a genuine man typically doesn't want all of the experience. A genuine man wants to have the ability to grow with you in the bedroom, to teach you, because there's a measure of safety. And men, I don't know how to else to say is get off on the whole concept of safety. So don't think that it's going to be painfully unbearable. It won't. Don't think that it's going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to you and it's going to be tormenting. It won't. Just stay within the will of God so you don't end up with the wrong person. When you're in the will of God and you communicate to your husband, hey, I'm a virgin, then he knows, if he's a virgin, then y'all didn't experience it for the first time together. If he's not a virgin, he'll know, how to take his time or what have you with you. And that's going to come mostly through you communicating. Whenever you get ready and you guys are ready to do that, you have to communicate, right? You have to sit back because he's not going to know if you're hurting or what have you. You have to sit back and say, you have to tell him, you say ouch or what have you. And I tell women, it's just place your hand on the center of his chest or what have you, and just gently just pushing them up a little bit. You're communicating with your body, and sometimes you're communicating and let him know that hurts or what have you, and he'll take his time. Slowly but surely, the fear dissipates. It's not the body that's going to reject him. It's the mind. It's the fear of the unknown. Once the fear dissipates, then slowly but surely, in the beginning, you're probably not going to be like, oh, I love sex. In the beginning, it's a gradual thing. If you happen to have a husband that loves you, you will come to love sex because he will take his time with you. He will make sure that he's not just in it for himself. If you have a guy that's just about himself, yeah, it's probably not going to be a good experience. But I know, and I'm believing God that God's going to send you the right man or what have you. So get the people out your ear who's saying that it's going to hurt and it's going to be um unbearable and stuff like that. Yes, there's a pain element to it, but it's not unbearable. It could be unbearable if you have somebody that's insensitive. If you have somebody, and in which case you still have control, you can lock them legs and push that joke up off you or what have you, and tell him, say, hey, I need you to chill. I don't know what you're thinking or what have you. But communication. Make sure you're communicating. Like I said, premarital counseling. I would mention, if I would mention that I was a virgin, and I would let him know during premarital counseling, like, hey, I'm afraid, or I don't want to not, be able to please you, but at the same time, I'm inexperienced in this, or what have you. He'll be a man's gonna tell you, right? And he's gonna tell you, I'm not bothered by that. Because he already understands that over the course of time, you're gonna understand. I want to say this. For some reason, something happened in the planet. Something happened, whereas we got to a space where we started comparing ourselves with women who had a lot of history, like women that were whores. Men can be whores as well, so nobody get mad. But we started comparing ourselves with them. And a lot of women who were good women started thinking, because they were getting left and cheated on, and they were getting cheated on by their husband. He was cheating on them with women that were super promiscuous. And it's created a fear in women. Whereas women typically are afraid of, if I'm with you and if I'm not doing it right, you're gonna leave me. That's not the case. If you're with a good man, he's not gonna leave you either way. If you're with a bad man, it doesn't matter how good you are, he's still gonna cheat. So I want you to think it's a comparison thing or what have you. Your husband's going to enjoy you. Your husband's going to enjoy you. He's going to enjoy being with you. He's going to enjoy everything about you, because love changes the climate in the bedroom. Love changes the climate in the bedroom. It's not the same climate as, what you will see on a porn video. It's not the same climate as what women are going out here getting with boyfriends. It's not the same climate. Love changes the climate. So hopefully that helps. Here for 2 years of waiting on my spouse. My question is, I still feel like I'm dying to my preference. How important is looks? Still feel like I'm carnal minded with this. No, we're all visual creatures. And I hate when people say men are visual creatures. And I say, I'm not cockeyed. I can see you too, bro. But realistically speaking, I said this to a friend of mine the other day. Sister in Christ, we were talking about it. And I said, the more you mature, the less important like looks become. They still on the list though. You still want to be visually attracted to your man. But what becomes more important is the spirit in a man. What becomes more important is his character, his love and fear, his dedication to God, or what have you. A man that could be, now the world has a scale 1 to 10. On a scale, he could be a 5, and maybe you're used to the 7, 8s, and the 9s. and this guy comes along who's a 4 or 5, and he has a really beautiful relationship with God, you will find yourself attracted to him just watching him worship. You will find like all of the world's thinking will be erased from your mind, and you won't care what nobody think, because in there you're like, man, I really like this guy, or what have you, if that's a priority. For me, a man's love of God is a priority. That needs to be top. He needs to love God more than he loves me. That's a priority. So to see a man worshiping, to see a man surrendering to God, beautiful to me. Beautiful to me. um but when it comes down to looks, I can be visually attracted to a guy and still not attracted to him. Yeah, I think we all can. I could be visually attracted to a man, but not like his character. And right then and there, I'm not going to be interested in him as a person. I can look at him and state a fact and say, oh, he's good looking. He's handsome. Somebody can say, hey girl, what about that guy? He work on your job. He work in let's say the marketing office. Who are you talking about? Joey? Yeah, Joey. Yeah, he's good looking. He's handsome. That's it. So you ain't you. I mean, I think y'all make girl no. Nay, 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 nay. Thank you. And the reason for that is because character is more important to me than how a man looks outside. But looks are important as well for all of us. We all want to be visually attracted to our spouses or what have you. But like I said, I was having that conversation the other day with a sister in Christ of mine, and I was like, and she had the same conclusion, right? I said it. The older you get, the more mature you get, the less you care about him being a 9 or a 10. You become more concerned with his character. Now, I'm going to say something that's going to be shallow, but the Bible says that man looks at the outward appearance, God looks at the heart. I'm probably not going to be with somebody I'm not attracted to visually. On all out honesty, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't want somebody that's not visually attracted to me to come after me. Or what have you. I would want him. There has to be some attraction. There's some type of physical attraction. There are different types of attractions. I would want the physical attraction to be there, but I don't place that as number one on that list, if that makes sense. So I would say don't place that as number one, because I've been married twice and they were gorgeous. They were good. They were some really, really good looking men. I'm not lying on that. There were some really, really good looking men, but their character. And I don't even want to say this. My mother, my mother always told me, she always told me and my siblings, she said it in front of my dad, that she wasn't visually attracted to my dad. And she married my dad because, for several reasons. She married my dad because she thought because he was so intelligent. She thought he would be the first black president of the United States, or he was going to be the pastor of a church because his dad was a pastor. And she married my dad because she felt like no other woman was going to want him. Shallow, yes. That was cruel, yes. My mother had the choice between the star quarterback and my father. And she said the star quarterback, she felt like he was going to cheat. She felt like he was going to be a womanizer, so she ended up choosing my dad over him. My mother wasn't visually attracted to my father, and he felt that over the time he was married. And me being present in that type of marriage made me know not to put myself in a situation like that, to not be with a person that I'm not attracted to. Um, and not to be with somebody that's not attracted to me, because at the end of the day, that is a big thing. Not to prioritize it as number one. What my mom put as her top priority was my dad's power and position, and or what have you, things she felt like he was going to achieve. Well, when he didn't achieve those things, she started withholding herself from him. They would argue all the time. They didn't get along. I never seen my dad and mother slow dance. I never saw them kiss. I never saw them holding hands. I never saw them doing any of those things. So looks, I would say, don't get with somebody that you look at and say, ugh. Don't get with somebody that you look at and say, I have no visual attraction to this guy, or I'm squinting, I'm struggling to have a visual attraction to him. But at the same time, I wouldn't place it on the top of the priority. So you can look at the world scale and decide whether or not, like, what would you be willing to date on that scale? Would it be, do they have to be between a 7 and a 10? Can they be a 6, a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1? And define what that looks like to you. But I would say continue to chase God so your heart can mature to the point where that it goes less than. right? For me, his relationship with God is number one. Two, his relationship with himself. How does he treat himself? Because it's a reflection of how he's going to treat me. Does he love himself? Is he putting forth the effort to die to himself and all that? And then three, how he treats me and how he sees me, how he defines me. Everybody has a way of defining you, and so I've learned this, and y'all, this is 40 plus wisdom. I've learned is pay attention to how people define you, because that gives you a revelation that tells you whether or not God is speaking to them about you. I don't want a man that God is not speaking to about me. And I'm not saying that he got to be a prophet, prophetic person. I'm saying that he needs to be prayerful. If he don't have any type of revelation, to me, that feels like God is rejecting the relationship. And when I say revelation, I ain't saying he got to say you like this, you like that. But I'm saying that wisdom. Let me pray about this. Let me just ask the Lord to lead me. Or what have he never has to utter a word and say, hey, I know this about you. But you will see that in how he's demonstrating, how he's treating you. Or what have you. How he's treating you. How do I talk about it in premarital with the pastor present without it being weird? It's gonna be weird. Get past the discomfort. Just write it down, maybe on a piece of paper, and hand it over to the pastor. I would just actually come out and say it. Like I said, humor takes all the tension out, right? Just humor it. Just hey, rather than asking like a black and white question. Hi, I wanted to know if we would be sexually, compatible, because I don't want to go to Pound Town. I mean, I don't want him to be the type of person that he views sex as just his means of expressing himself physically. He just doing the most in the bedroom, and he squeals like a broken seal, and next thing you know, he roll off of me and he go to sleep, and I'm laying there like Miss Seeley staring at the ceiling. I don't want that for myself. um you can sit there and just add humor to it, rather than just saying, don't be so technical, don't be so black and white with it. Just add humor to it or what have you. That breaks the shame and the weirdness about the situation. And if it does get weird, in weird moments, I've learned I'm awkward. I'm weird, and so in weird moments, I will typically interrupt a weird moment with something like, well, it just got odd up in here, or I'll say it just got awkward up in here, or what have you. Right, what I'm doing is I'm breaking it. I'm saying, no, I don't want us to have that discomfort, yeah. Or what have you. So just bring humor into the conversation, or what have you. Or you know if your pastor's a male, you feel for better having your first lady in there. Make sure that you have her in there. I would say just don't get too detailed, if that would make you shame. Like, don't start talking about clits and all that other stuff. I would just say, these are some concerns of mine. I would have the paper and I say, and then I would just kind of add humor to it, and we just laugh about it. Humor will take it out of there. What if God sends the one and you're not attracted to him? God didn't send him. God didn't send him. I'm gonna start putting these on the screen so that everybody can see it. But no, if somebody comes along and you think that that's the one and you're not attracted to him, I believe that God is intentional. The only time I would say that there's a difference is if your view of your husband is determined by the media and what you're worried about, what people think or what have you. You want to make sure you're purified of people pleasing. You want to make sure that you're purified of caring about what people think, and you want to be able to see him from a pure place. And if you see him from a pure place and you still make the decision that, hey, I'm not visually attracted to him, 9 times out of 10, God didn't send him. 9 times out of 10, God didn't send him. He may be within God's permissive will, but he's not necessarily in God's perfect will for you. So don't feel like you're obligated to that. Notice the men in the Bible, they would get themselves what they wanted, right? And they wanted themselves a beautiful woman. They got what they wanted. One day I prayed to God that he would take away from me the desire of a woman's body. This is unlawful. I wouldn't say that, but I would say it's not the best prayer to pray. I would pray and say, God, give me self control. Give me wisdom. Give me self control. Give me revelation. Help me to keep myself pure. And you can say, if I prayed anything like that, I'd be like, until I get married. But I wouldn't say take it away and altogether. I wouldn't say take it away altogether. Give me a second. I don't know who timed you out. Let me see. We have moderators. You could have said something off the bat. As little girls, we grow up fantasizing about marriage and playing house. This seems to cause issues. How to address this, please? I actually do believe it causes issues. If I had a daughter, I'm probably not going to buy her a house and doll. I don't want her playing mommy when she's a kid. I want her to enjoy her childhood. I want her, what have you, to enjoy being a little girl. But that comes from the belief that women were designed completely just to be husband material, just to be wife material to a man. That's how I was raised. I was raised in the South. So I was raised, my mom inundated me with, you please your husband, please your husband, please your husband. Your man ain't gonna want you if you can't cook. He ain't gonna want you if you can't clean. I was inundated with that as I think I was 4 or 5 years old. As far back as I can remember for sure when I was 5 years old. My mom telling me, your husband's not gonna want you if you don't know how to cook. I remember standing on a chair and learning how to cook. I remember helping my mom, peel greens and stuff like that. Um, but that's something that's inundated. But I would say don't teach that to the children. But to address the issue, come out of agreement with it. You start telling yourself something different. I'm more than just somebody's wife. I have purpose on the earth. I have an assignment with God. And then you get into your assignment, find other women to look up to, find women that are in their assignment or what have you, and just, watch them, follow them and stuff like that. That typically will encourage you, and it'll help you to be, it'll help you to come out of that doctrine, is what I'm gonna call it. It'll help you to come out of that type of mentality or what have you. You can still desire to be married. There's nothing, I desire to be married. I look forward to being married, but I'm still an entrepreneur. I'm still in ministry. I'm still, a lot of different things. I still desire to do a lot. However, I don't see myself as having been born just to be somebody's husband, just to be somebody's wife, if that makes sense. Just to be somebody's, I don't see myself as having been born for that. I see myself as having been born because I have a purpose, I have an assignment. And me being somebody's wife is a bonus to that. That's an add-on, right? That's an add-on. I'm gonna add on to him and he's an add-on to me. I'm gonna help me, he gonna help as well. But that's how it was. All right. Is it normal to desire sex less while abstinent? I've started a journey going on 2 years now. I can't tell if it's just a sign I'm no longer addicted to sex. No, that's a beautiful thing. That just signifies that you're no longer a slave to it. I think honestly, when we're used to being a slave to something, it could be kind of scary and we think something is wrong. All those different freedoms I've got, every time I got a new freedom, I questioned it. I was like, what is this? Because it was new to me. Like I said, I used to deal with sexual addiction. I dealt with it bad. And when that thing went away, I was like, am I getting older? Is this a thing of getting older? No, I promised God abstinence or what have you. And I don't put there are certain music I don't listen to. I don't watch TV a whole lot. I probably watch TV once every 2 to 3 months. I do watch my phone. I may watch a show on my phone or what have you, but I don't watch anything that has sex in it or what have you. So I'm not inundated with that culture. And so I don't, it's not something that crosses my mind. I have no idea what you're talking about. Go dogs. How do you know the difference between making love and just having sex? I don't think I've ever made love. So I don't think that it's a fact. Like making love is a fact, or having make. I think that's just more so culture. But if we want to talk about intimacy, I think when you start saying intimacy versus sex, sex is more so designed for gratification. It's designed that hey, that's it. It's designed for gratification, and so typically during sex, the one of both parties is doing everything to gratify self or trying to heighten the experience. Whenever you start dealing with intimacy, think about intimacy with God. Whenever you're spending time with God, you're worshiping Him, you're down on your face, or what have you. In that moment, you lose yourself. You're whenever you go into worship, you start off and you're at this, you're still thinking about yourself when you first go into worship, right? And you first go into worship, you're still did I turn the stove off? Did I lock that door? Did I do this? Did I do that? Or what have you? But as you continue to go in, typically about a minute, two in, it's different for everybody. But as you begin to go into worship, a lot of times you start to lose yourself. And then you forget all about yourself for a moment. And you're just, Lord, I thank you. I worship you. I honor you. You are faithful. You're good. You're merciful. And you just begin to worship him. Hallelujah to your name, God. Glory to your name. Oh, have you begin to lose yourself because in that moment you're being intimate with God. You're in that moment, what you're doing is you're yielding yourself to God. And that's what it's like to have intimacy with your partner, is that in that you lose yourself in the intimate encounter. You lose yourself because in that moment you're not concerned with you. This ain't about you having your the big O. It's not about that. It's in that moment. It's an expression of love. It's an expression of appreciation. It's an expression of it's your way of saying I thank you for being an amazing partner or what have you. And when they give it back to you the same way, because that's when it becomes I don't want to call it supernatural, but it's almost supernatural. What just landed on me? It's almost supernatural. That's when it becomes more intimate. So you're coming in with intimate, but it becomes an intimate encounter in that. Because in that moment, it's not about, in that moment, it's not about us, coming together. It's not about two people coming together or some guy sitting up there talking something. Man, I'm horny, baby. Oh, what have you. And when you get married, I tell people this all the time. You get married, you're gonna have sex and intimacy with your partner. You're gonna have them both, right? He gonna wake up with a sunny day. Realistically speaking, he gonna wake up with a sunny day, and you're probably gonna have sex because he got to go to work. He needs to be in the shower, getting ready, but he's talking about something. Let me get one for the road, or what have you. Um, Times you're in the house with him, y'all just happen to be hanging out. There'll be times when you're having sex, right? Because he got aroused and you got aroused, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then there are times where you're going to have intimate encounters with each other. And those intimate encounters are typically preceded by something good, something nice that he said, something good that he said, or it can be preceded by just this overwhelming feeling of love, right? But that's where you're going to have sex versus intimacy. Intimacy has everything to do with how I feel inwardly versus how I feel out externally. Sex has everything to do with external. Dang, I want to have sex. But intimacy has everything to do with, hey, I want you. I'm so grateful for you and all of that stuff. So intimacy is a little bit different. But intimacy is sex, but sex is not necessarily intimacy. I'll say it that way. How do you get over the comparison when the last person performed very well? Abstinence, prayer, fasting, being careful what you watch on television, um, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And break. So I'll say this: when I was married the first time, our chemistry was through the roof, and we were together 9 years, married 7. Our chemistry was through the roof. I remember when that day we had the conversation when he was like, "How did you know?" And I asked him, I said, I've never understood why you cheated. It just didn't make sense to me. And he said, Tiffany, I honestly don't know why. He said, because he said, I'm being honest and I'm not trying to blow your mind up. He said, but none of those women were better than you. I enjoyed you better. He was like, it's like when it was over with, I would be sober enough to say, why did I do this? I enjoyed my wife way better than this. He said, but it was just the thrill of almost getting caught, the thrill of doing wrong or what have you. He's an adrenaline junkie. When I got married the second time, I was careful not to compare him, even though I did find myself comparing him, not necessarily sexually, but morally. And that's because I didn't heal between relationships. But I didn't sit there and be like, hey, the first guy we had amazing chemistry or what have you. I didn't do that. Instead, what I did was I sought to have amazing chemistry with him. So it wasn't like, okay, the last dude was, he was the bomb. So now you got to be the bomb. No, it wasn't like that. So it's basically how you treat your brain. For me, and I think most women, and even yourself, when you get married, you genuinely love a person, you are intentionally going to cast that stuff out of your head. You intentionally want to make sure that your mind doesn't go there. You would intentionally try to make sure that you're not thinking about another person and what that person did or what have you. And at the same time, you know, you will communicate with your spouse and say to him, hey, listen, um, I don't like that. But like I said, get purged of the last person, get purged of the last season. That way you don't make him perform like the last guy, if that makes sense. Because one thing you'll start to learn about your body, especially as a woman, is that it's more psychological. It's more mental for us than anything. It's not physical for us for the most part. It's not physical, it's more psychological. And some women will tell you, now it's physical. And that's because they have had a lot of men that don't love them, and they're used to being pounded. I don't know any other way to say it, but they're used to being thrust all over the place. They're used to being in comparison. They're used to being told, "Oh, girl, you did that," or what have you. I had friends like that when I was in the world. They're used to having their minds kind of blown up or what have you, but then they turn around and they're shocked that they still get cheated on, right? And I got cheated on. So you come to learn that it has nothing to do with how good you are in the bedroom. As soon as you learn that, every female should learn that. It has nothing to do with how much chemistry you have with a person. You know, a person cheating on you has everything to do with that person's character. It has everything to do with that person's relationship with God or lack thereof. But I would say don't think about what the next person does and did or what have you. You tell yourself. I remember being married, and I could see, like I said, go to his mother house. She used to have pictures of his exes on the wall or what have you. He had some gorgeous exes. Gorgeous. He was a good looking guy. He had some really gorgeous exes. I could have easily looked at them and been like, I feel intimidated, but I didn't. My mind was, he with me now. And it's all in what you tell yourself. My thought was, he with me. So obviously he's attracted to me, or what have you. Because he was more of a visual, type dude. Great topic. The only thing was the pounding. If he's sensible, he probably won't. It'd be a great experience, not a pounding, unless the wife wants that. But it should be a great experience. Yeah, it's something that in marriage you're gonna have all of it. You're gonna have the intimacy, the pounding, just the story. But you communicate. You communicate that with one another. What have you? And typically, I won't even say communicate. You'll know what the moment calls for, because when you're in that moment, it's like there's a knowing. You know what the moment calls for in that time. And if you happen to have a wife that doesn't like that, then you're probably not going to do it as much. One thing about marriage is that there is a great deal of sacrifice, even sexually. Whereas a lot of times a woman will sacrifice, and women do this all the time, a woman will sacrifice her preference and then just let the man do what he wants to do. I tell women not to make a habit of that, because if they make a habit of that, then they end up not satisfied with their husbands or what have you. But yeah, there's a thing where women kind of catch on to, oh, he likes that happens to be his favorite thing or what have you, and it's almost like a brownie, a treat, or what have you. A woman can give that, and a woman will communicate that. So you'll have all of those things in marriage. You just won't necessarily have that all the time, because you don't want your wife to ever get to the space where she feels like that's the only way, because then she'll begin to hate sex. She'll begin to hate sex. Okay. Can we, as Christians, participate in womb healing? Yanni Masa does the Yanni statement to heal our wounds from any trauma in the past. No, that's witchcraft. That's witchcraft. And it doesn't heal your womb. That doesn't heal your womb. Am I a feminist? No. No, that doesn't heal your womb. What heals your womb? Everything is healed here. Your heart. Everything happens. Your heart is the central thing. And so what you have to do, your healing comes from God. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. No, 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 no. He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. That's not just outer body; that's the inner body. And so, a lot of the things that people get into give you the sense of being healed, but it's not an actual healing. Or what have you? It's that you pretty much, it's the doctrine of demons. You deceive yourself into thinking that you're healed, but it's demonic. So I would stay away from it. Right? Same. He's a lover and a worshiper of God, a worshiper of Lord God. Yes, I said this before. A worshiper typically is going to be more intimate in the bedroom. He's going to know what to do versus somebody who's dry in worship. Somebody at church like this, Somebody all leviathan up. He can't lift his hands in worship. He gonna be whack. He gonna be prideful. He gonna be whack. Is it wrong for Christians to get the be and to be it? I don't know what that is. Tell me what that is. How do you heal from that fear of intimacy, fear of being present and totally seen during marital sex? Um, Spend time with God. In your single season one, you want to make sure you get therapy. But in spend time with God in your single season, being in the presence of God is the most healing thing that you could ever do. I'm not lying when I say that. Being in his presence, because God is light and God gives you revelation. And so you start to realize that where that fear comes from, where that insecurity comes from, you start realizing, oh, this happened to me when I was a kid. I can tell you, for example, when I was a kid, my I had an auntie, I could not stand her. She could have been a sweetheart, would have been a sweetheart. But one thing I ain't gonna say I couldn't stand her, but one thing I couldn't stand about her, which made me not want to go over her house, was that she would often lift up my shirt. Like she come over there and she was like, "Oh, that girl got some big old breasts." Oh, what have you? And I was just like this little, and they were like, I remember going over to the house one day. We went over there to visit, and it's people sitting in the living room, including me. And then I walked up and she said, "Where you at now?" Pulled up my shirt, and I was so humiliated. Just pulled up my shirt in front of everybody, or what have you. And that thankfully didn't create trauma for me, but that could have created trauma for me. It could have created trauma. It created something, obviously, because I still remember it. But I would say therapy, so that you can dig. You have to go and pull up the root of those fears, and you may not realize what the root is right now, because typically when stuff gets stacked on top of things, when we have all these ideologies and experiences that get stacked on top of things, we lose the root. And so we can tell you what we feel, we can tell you, but we don't know the root of it. And what therapy does is it peels up the layers of it. And as you're peeling up the layers, you start to realize maybe it was molestation, maybe it was at some point you were in a sexual relationship with somebody and it made you feel humiliated, or what have you. And so in a case like that, you make it a commitment. I will never have sex outside of marriage again. I'm surrendering myself to God. I'm going to get therapy. I'm going to spend time in the presence of God. And then you inundate yourself with more positive thoughts. So you cast down the evil thoughts, inundate yourself with more positive thoughts that, hey, intimacy it's going to be excellent. It's going to be amazing. Or what have you. Don't worry about like real fears that women typically have, like what if I don't have the body that he likes, or what have you. That's coming from comparison. Kill that kill that if he's married to you, he's perfectly okay, right? And that's just the world's ideology. The world's ideology is that you need to be as curvaceous as Beyonce. Realistically speaking, most women aren't like that, what have you. And realistically speaking, he chose you. So you have to kill that ideology one thought at a time. When it comes up, you have to cast it down and replace it with a different thought. You sit back and tell yourself, he's going to love me. He's going to love my body. And then also, lastly, make whatever adjustments you want to make. And I'm not talking about surgery. I'm talking about more so um, like exercise. I mean, there are some surgeries that I'm not against, but exercise, make yourself feel better about yourself, but not for anybody else. Make sure you feel better about you. I don't recommend BBL. So when I talk about surgery, I don't recommend BBLs. I don't recommend a lot of things or what have you. But like a person like an overweight bariatric, if they feel like that's the route that they didn't want to go, I'm not against it. I think it's a great thing. Um, do whatever it takes to make you feel better about yourself, but heal the part of you that doesn't like you, or that makes you feel that you're not good enough, because it's that same side of you, if you ever got yourself together, that will cause you to feel pride. So you want to make sure that you're dealing with that. You want to address that in therapy. Like I said, in the midst of all of that, you want to make sure that you're peeling up the layers. And then while you're going through the process, last but not least, if you're not in a relationship, try not to get in one. When you're going through therapy, it's always good so that you can kind of clear your mind and you don't have the haze of somebody talking to you and all of that stuff. Some dude telling you, no, I know what it is. I know what it is. I'm gonna do about 3 or 4 more, guys. I'm not gonna be able to do all of them, guys, because I need to get out of here. How do women navigate sex and sexual compatibility if they are a virgin or have little to no experience? Um, to do it kingdom way, honestly. to wait for God to send the right man. And in order for that to happen, you have to stay within the will of God. And when God brings the right man, it's something that man will care that he will take care of you. In other words, he will show you, you will learn what to do. Like sex is instinctual. You will know a little bit of what to do, and then whatever you don't know, he will teach you. He will teach you, will learn or what have you. And then you'll also learn what you don't like. So different things that he may do, you will learn what you don't like. And in the midst of you learning what you don't like, you'll be able to communicate that. I admonish you to don't be like the 60, 70, however percentage of women that don't communicate that. I admonish you to communicate it. Now, I would say the first few encounters, you're still new to it, so a lot of things that you're not gonna like. But as you start to get into the flow of it, then you communicate that, because that's what's a lot of people think that a lot of women think that I need to learn these different positions and I need to take it. I need to take it. I gotta take it. I gotta take the pain, even if it's agonizing or what have you. If it feels like he's ripping my insides out, I just gotta take it until he finishes, so he can, because he's screaming like a little girl. So I just got to take it so that he could, he'll feel like, he's happy. Not true. Your body as a female is going to play a big role in how that encounter is, because a woman's body can lubricate or it can dry up or what have you. And you don't want to be somebody that's always having dry sex with your husband because he's doing something bad. Because he's doing, not bad, but he's doing something that you don't find, pleasurable. Like I said before, there'll be times when you have to sacrifice that. There are times when you're married and that's just something that you kind of naturally know. There are times when you sacrifice. So you will start to learn when you're married, for example, different things that you'll learn the timing of your husband. So the timing of your husband, you'll learn, if I do this right here, he'll be done in 3 minutes. If I do this right down here, he'll be done in a minute. Or what have you. If I do this right here, if I wanted to go all night long, then we gonna go missionary. If I wanted to, so you learn those different things as you go along. Um, Sometimes you may give in and say, okay, I really don't feel like doing anything, but I want to please him. And he I don't know what happened to him, but he in the mood. He in the mood, what have you. And you learn, okay, if I want to go ahead and finish him off, this is something I'm gonna do. Or what have you. I'm gonna move my leg like this, I'm gonna do this, and then he's gonna be done. He'll be done in a minute, and he gonna fall asleep, and it's like putting the baby to sleep. Um, but it's a learning experience. So don't think that you're going to go in already knowing. I'm not a virgin, but I'm a virgin to my husband, whoever he may be. I'm a virgin to my husband, which means that whenever we get married and we go into the bedroom, I have no idea. I have no idea. There are the basics of sex, and then there is getting to know the person. Most of the time, when you first start off, you're probably trying. If you're immature, you're trying to do the basics of it, just the basic rounds of it. But for the most part, no, you're getting to know each other. And so don't be afraid to get to know your spouse in the bedroom. You got to know him outside the bedroom. So now you get to know him in the bedroom. And just like outside the bedroom, you had to communicate, in the bedroom, you have to communicate. You have to sit back and say, hey, um, I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't a fan of that. Why would you do anything like that? Please don't bite my nipples because that hurts. Don't. I know you getting turned on or what have you. You want to chew. I got your chew. All right, so don't be biting me like that. You'll be communicating that or what have you, and it's just a way that you communicate it. Like I say, just don't ever make the person feel castrated. Don't ever make the person say that hurt. You don't even know what you're doing. I've known women that did stuff like that, and that will destroy marriage in 3, 2, 1 seconds. Um, but it's all in communication. Just remember this: when you get married to your husband, you already know him. You've already got to know him to an extent, but you're just meeting him in the bedroom. So that takes time to build a relationship. Just like you have to build a relationship outside the bedroom, it takes time to build one in the bedroom. If you dated somebody and you let him tell you everything and you didn't say anything, you just said, okay, then he's going to get adjusted to that. He's going to get adjusted to you being super passive and saying, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. Sure. And then over the course of time, you'll resent him for it because then it's going to feel like he's controlling. And that's because you relinquished your control to him. Same thing is true for the bedroom. Whenever you get in the bedroom, you have to communicate. You have to sit back and say, yeah, I don't know what that uh that Kermit the Frog move you pulling, or what have you, you ribbiting all over the bed and stuff. I don't know where you get that from, but could you not do that again? Because not only does it hurt, but you just look weird. Don't do that. Oh, what have you? Like I said, if you have a good relationship with your spouse, typically y'all will laugh about it. Women that I've seen, women that I've seen have bad sex encounters with their husbands. In most cases, they don't communicate. In most of the cases I've seen, when I asked a woman, "Did you communicate it to them?" They didn't, because they were in comparison mode. That's the biggest problem, is that women typically are in comparison mode. Oh, I love this question. Should you discuss the number of partners you had with your partner? Story time. When I got married, matter of fact, me and this guy, when I first got with him, we moved in together, right? Because I was new to Christian, I was new to Christianity, I was new to the faith. I won't say I was new to it, but I was freshly saved. But I've told this story before. I had been a wildflower in my youth, right? I had, had my fair share of sex, all right? I've been a wildflower. And I was ashamed of it, because I had just started going to church and I started getting my life right with God, and I had been ashamed of my past, even though I didn't have a past where I was just like I wasn't having no orgies. No, I ain't had no orgies. Um, but I wasn't doing anything wild out there. I wasn't doing anything wild out there in the streets. And so consequently, we were sitting up, and I don't know if we were married at the time or we were we were living together, but we were in the house, and he used to love to have those discussions. So we ended up having a discussion about sexual partners. And that discussion actually darn near destroyed our marriage, because he wanted to know. And so at first I was free with it. I was like, yeah, I dated this guy, and then yeah, you slept with him, what have you. And I was like, and then he told me he named 4 women. I think he named 4 women. And I remember I got to do number 5. I was like, then there was, and I'm just gonna make up a name. And then there was Freddie, and he was like, whoa, don't no man want a woman that's had more sexual partners than him. And instant shame hit me. Instant shame. I had already been ashamed of it, but at this moment I felt free for a second. But that instant shame hit me, instant. So I shut down, and I was like, he was like, yeah. He said, I've only been with 4 women, which he was lying through his teeth. But he was like, don't a man want a woman that's been with more men than he's had women. And so he was like, who else? I said, that's it. And he said, who? No, that's it. I said, yeah, just that's it. I shut down. At the end, that was 6, 7 years before we broke up. At the end, he walked in on the room when I was talking to my best friend at the time, and I was actually testifying about what God delivered me from. I was still a baby in Christ, but I was testifying to her. And he not only walked in, he hid around the corner and listened to the conversation. And that night, I think a few days later, he moved out. He used that. Now he was cheating. He moved in with his mistress. That was an excuse, but he used that. What I took from that point on was that, should you keep it a secret? No, I don't hide my past, from any guy. I'm very open. When I met the next guy, we talked. We got on the conversation about sexual past, and I was like, bro, I was a thought, okay, but not the thought that was like going with sleeping with this guy, didn't get out of his bed. No, I was a thought in the sense that I would be in a relationship with a guy, and we would probably be sexually active, and then we broke up. If I'm gonna start dating somebody else, I was probably gonna be sexually active with him, or what have you. And then I try to control my body count by getting me a splack of belly. Y'all know the story. But I was open and honest with him, and he didn't care. He was like, because he knew he had been a thought, or what have you. And when we got married, and this makes me want not when we got we were having sex before we got married, because I was still foolish. But he told me, he was like, you're a liar. You're a liar. You're a virgin. I said, well, bless his name. Bless his name. I said, he was like, you're a virgin. But where was that question? Should you discuss the number of partners you've had with your partner? Yes. I don't think it's something you discuss in the beginning, but I think that right before or you since you start getting serious and stuff like that, I do think it's something that you should discuss if that's important. So I would say basically you would ask them this is the discussion of how many sexual partners a person had, is that important to you? And if he says, yeah, man, I don't want no woman that's been, you say, okay, cool. So you're probably not gonna want me because I'm not gonna lie. I did some stuff back in my day. Or then again, he'll be like most guys, most mature guys, they say, no, it's not that big of a deal. That's your past. I have that has nothing to do with me or what have you. But I would say if it's important to him, make it important to you. I would not hide those facts based on my experience from that or what have you. Since then, I have been like an open book when it comes to that stuff. Yeah, I've been an open book when it comes to that stuff. So if a man sit up there, he be like, so let's talk about sexual partners. I'd be like, bro, bruh, you don't want to have that conversation. You don't want to have that conversation. How to become more patient when waiting for your future spouse. Spend time with God. Spend a lot of time with God. I'm talking about stay in his face. Um, go to get into your purpose. Get into your purpose. God tell you to write books, go write books. God tell you to preach the gospel, go preach the gospel. Get busy. Whenever you're busy, you're not going to have time to think about a man. I don't have a whole lot of time to think about where's my husband and when is he going to come around. I don't have a lot of time to think about that stuff because I'm always writing, working on something. Um, like I finished these two books, the before and after taste of deliverance. Y'all know this. Y'all get them. Part one and book one and book two. They're on Amazon, but I don't have time because I'm always busy. I'm always working on. I have companies. So I'm always working on somebody's project or working on some projects. I'm working on my own projects. I have my school. I'm just too busy to think about relationships. I'm too busy to think about that. Do I think about it from time to time? Yes, of course I do. I look forward to it. It's exciting. I told my sister in Christ the other day. She was telling me something about what she was going through. Feeling like she knew. I don't know, but I told her. I said, stop trying to figure it out. Because then, and I pray this blesses y'all. I told her, I said, stop trying to figure out who it is. I said, because that used to get me. I said, because it'll make you lock and load on a dude and you be all excited thinking, and then you get frustrated because you be like, he ain't pursuing, he ain't doing this, he ain't doing that, or what have you, and you realize that you're kind of playing with your own head. Um, I told her, I said, one thing for me, I'm literally like this because my story is so fascinating. My story is so fascinating, even to me. I laugh at it. I laugh at the crazy stuff I've been through. I laugh at the different encounters I've had and what have you. And I'm like, it honestly, my story makes me fall in love with God all the more because I feel like, there are different types of authors, right? You got me, I got my own style of writing, what have you. When God wrote my story out, now some parts he didn't add in it, but he added some humor behind the craziness or what have you. So when I look at my story, I laugh hysterically about different encounters, including being nearly kidnapped. I laugh at that stuff. I said, only me, the cable guy. And y'all know I didn't date the cable guy. The cable guy was just, but only I just laugh. I'm like, and it makes me more aware whenever I'm thinking to date. If I think about if I have a guy that's pursuing and I like him back and what have you, then it makes me aware of what it could be, to just be cognizant, to stay sober or what have you. But yeah, just stay busy. I had to go back and look at your question again. But just stay busy. Get lost in your purpose, get lost in your assignment or what have you, because within that you are basically surrendering yourself and you're getting to know yourself. You're getting to know God and you're getting to know yourself. And then when you don't have time to think about a husband, when you don't have time to think about, you'll have less time to think about it. And when you have less time to think about it, it's going to become a thing that, hey, I look forward to it. But at the end of the day, I'm not rushing to it. And then two, when you get in your purpose, I'm going to say this out loud. The more you get into your purpose, the more valuable you become into yourself. And then you start realizing you have too much to lose to waste it on just some anybody. And so you become more guarded. This is when the Bible says guard your heart. You start learning how to guard your heart or what have you. Meaning you're not going to just give your heart away to know anybody. You ain't going to give your phone number away to know anybody. You're going to be careful. You're going to be prayerful. You're going to be intentional, what have you. So I would say get in your purpose, get involved in your purpose, get involved in your assignment, and just get super duper busy. Don't The Bible says casting down imaginations, cast those thoughts down, find something else to do with your time, or what have you. One thing I can honestly say, if I'm not busy, my mind will go all over the place. My mind will go to China, North Korea, it'll go all the way to Nigeria, it'll go all over the place. And so I keep my mind busy. I keep my mind busy. Hello, I've been single for a long time, and I wanted to know, is it normal to not desire to be married? Not really. I won't say something wrong, but in most cases, that is a sign that you're hurt and you've probably given up. So I would say, look into your past. Ask yourself, why don't you desire marriage? What is it like? What happened? Why would I not desire it? If you say I don't know, then your heart is hiding it. So anytime you ask yourself a question, I do interrogation, self-interrogation. So I've learned that I can actually hide stuff from myself. And it's amazing when you're getting to know yourself. And this is what 10 years of singleness does, is that you get to know God all the more, you get to know yourself all the more. And me getting to know myself, I learned that I actually hide stuff from myself. I learned that I will hide something. And what I've learned to do is I will interrogate myself until it comes to the surface. And so that's what you have to learn. You have to do. You have to learn to interrogate yourself. You have to learn to say, that's a surface level answer. Why? So I'll ask myself, it doesn't have to be audible. It can be in my head. Why? Or sometimes I may say it out loud. Why? Why is this? Why is that? And when I keep asking, sometimes a story will come out and I say, that's trauma. And I sit back and I'm like, okay, now I got to get therapy for that. I got to address that. I got to hit that head on because that can't come with me. And so that's the answer. In the midst of it, thank you. But I would say look into it to make sure it's not coming from a hurt place. Um, and it's not coming from a fearful place or coming from a place of you watching too much negative stuff and following negative people and hearing them talk about all of this negativity as it relates to marriage and men or what have you. You got to be careful what you take in because it will affect your heart. This is what the Bible says: guard your heart, for out of it pours the issues of life. So be careful what you're taking in. So once you strip it down, if it comes down to maybe God called you to it, then you'll know, hey, I honestly just don't want it. I don't think anything bad about it. But if it's coming from a hurt place, then you want to heal the hurt. Not, I'm giving two more. I'm going to get these two more. How do you deal with insecurities you have about your body or attractiveness regarding intimacy? I already answered that question. I think I answered it for somebody else. Oh, how do you have self-control over your hormones as a single person? I'm 27 and have really tried to not be sexual, but it's like the fire ain't going out. One, make sure it's not a deliverance issue. Now, it's a natural issue. The human body is, if you had sex before, your body gonna say, I want it again, especially if it was good, if you enjoyed it. The human body is going to keep on talking. It's going to keep on saying, but make sure it's not a deliverance issue because sometimes it can be a deliverance issue. Now, two, make sure it could be the company you keep. If you have people around you that are having sex, it's going to be hard for you to refrain from having sex. It could be what you're watching on the television set or listening to on the radio. You have to change the channel. Three, you have to make sure that you're casting down imaginations, like thoughts that play in your mind. You got to cast them down. Four, sometimes you got to get rid of the altars in your life. This is where I get spiritual. You got to get rid of the bed, right? Because maybe if you had sex on the bed, you got to get rid of those things, because it makes it really hard. Because the enemy a lot of times will attach himself to that kind of stuff because it becomes an altar. I keep forgetting the questions. I mean, in the midst of answering. Oh, 5, don't date fornicators. Don't date fornicators. Do not, because they will always keep you in your flesh. 6, give yourself little stints, right? Like you say, okay, I'm going 6 months, no sex, and if I do anything, I'm going to give $3,000. I'm going to give my tax money away to this charity. I'm going to do that, and you make that commitment to God. And then 6 months later, you'll see, hey, it was a struggle, but I'm going to do that again. And then you study scriptures on abstinence and the love of God, or what have you. You fill those voids. You do this by studying your Bible, going to church, but you fill those voids. The more God fills those voids up, the less likely you'll want to mess it up by going out there and having sex with somebody. There's nothing like, there's no comparison to a God that loves you unconditionally. For me to risk, even though you're not risking the love of God, but to risk, just going outside in the sin. And to me, it almost feels like I'm exchanging. If you're going to sin, like I'm taking all how good God has been to me, and I'm just kind of throwing all it away, in exchange for an imperfect human who probably doesn't love me or what have you. And so thoughts like that keep me sober. Like I don't tell myself, "Oh, he's in love with you," or that's gonna be it's gonna be such a beautiful union. I don't do that to my mind anymore. I'm past 40, and so because of that, I don't play with my head like that. I tell myself the raw truth. And I've learned that telling myself the raw truth keeps me sober. It keeps me from getting high off of, did you see the way he looked at you? Or was that man flirting with me? Or I think that might be the one. No, my brain doesn't go there. My brain goes to, that was interesting. That's it. And then I'm going to move on in my head, because one thing I've learned to do is I've learned not to tarry. I've learned not to tarry inside of a thought. I look at facts and not the things in the past, or delusions or what have you. But just make it a point, you don't let a man come to your house, you don't go to his house. Be careful what you're watching on the television set. Be careful who you hang around. Be careful what you take in your ears. Be careful and mindful of the conversations that you have. Get rid of any altars that you have. All right, hopefully that helps. I know for a fact I'm going to need premarital counseling because I'm dreading having sex when I get married. Yeah, and definitely get. Don't get just through premarital counseling. Get counseling now. Premarital counseling is already after he's already got a soul tie with you and he already wants to marry you, and that would be unfair. That would be totally unfair for you to come into premarital counseling after he's already married you and you haven't addressed that. So I would say get counseling now. Starting now, start getting counseling about it to get to the root of it. So by the time you start courting, by the time you start dating, by the time you propose, you are healed from that, and then you don't come into premarital counseling like, oh yeah, by the way, I don't want to have sex with you or what have you, because by this time he done bought a ring, and he's made plans, and he's planned his future around you or what have you. So definitely do that now. I'm gonna do one more question, guys, and I got to get out of here. How not to be afraid of the vulnerability that comes with sex as a virgin? I think I've answered that question. I will kind of just briefly touch it again. Um, you want to take the time out to get to know your spouse to the point where you're comfortable with them, and that means while you're dating, if there's discomfort, it ain't time for marriage. You want to take the time out to get to know the person or what have you, to the point where you're not afraid to be naked around that person. You're not afraid to um You're not afraid to be yourself. And this is what this is why I tell people spend time with yourself, because one thing I've learned is that most people don't genuinely know themselves. Most people are out here and they picked up a lot of different personalities, which is American culture. Western world culture is you find like 12 different personalities on the television that you like. And so you kind of pick up this girl's head turn, and you pick up this girl's, dance move. You pick up all these different things. And so finding ourselves usually means shedding all those layers and just becoming authentically you, despite what the world says, despite what the world thinks. Um, when you do that and you're chasing God, He teaches you how to love yourself. And I can honestly tell you, it helps to develop an attitude that I'm good enough. I'm just not good enough for the wrong man. I'm good enough for the right man. I'm not good enough for the wrong man. I'm okay with that. I don't want to be good enough for the wrong man. I want him to reject me. I want him to move on because I'm not for him. And I don't want to waste his time, nor do I want him to waste my time. So just understand that when it comes down to it, your husband, if you do it the right way and you stay within the will of God, and you allow God to bring your husband, your kingdom spouse, into your life, you'll be already vulnerable with him. And I'm not talking about just sex. I'm talking about just talking. You'll be already friends with him, close friends with him, maybe even best friends before he proposes. And so when it comes down to sex, you're 9 times out of 10, it won't be so scary. It won't be so scary because this will be somebody. No, you're looking at it now from that stranger danger perspective. Like, I don't know who this guy is, but by the time you get to know him, it won't be so intimidating. It won't be so intimidating. One more, and I'm gonna get out of here. Is oral allowed in Christian marriages? That is a debatable topic. Honestly, I can give you an answer, but it's gonna still be debatable. Um, every body part has a function. It was made for the mouth was made for one thing, the ears were made for one thing, the eyes were made for one thing. But when you're married, all things are lawful as long as you're doing them with each other. So it's not necessarily a sin, but it wasn't. It's just like the body wasn't made for fornication. The mouth wasn't made for that. But if that's something that you guys want to do, there, I don't think there's anything in the Bible that says speaks against it. I said I was gonna get out of here. Okay. Latoya, I would pray for his deliverance. I would set him up for deliverance. All right, I love you guys. Let me get out of here. I'm starting to feel sleepy, and I'm supposed to be up here working. All right, I love y'all. I pray that this bless you. Let's see here. Sister Tawana, thank you for the honor. Thank you for the seed. God bless you. All right, for those of you that I didn't get a chance to answer your question, please don't be offended. Well, honestly, it didn't look like it was that many more. Brother James, thank you. God bless you. God bless you. I thought it was more questions. I could have got to any more. I don't think there are any more. Let me see here. Yep. Well, we got through all of them. If I missed you by accident, I promise you it's not intentional. I love you, and I will talk to you guys soon.